Hello, everyone. I'm Brenda with Tellor, and today I'm super excited to tell you that our testnet is finally open to the public. So you guys can come and test with us, get familiar with the process of becoming a validator and a reporter. And because now we're opening up to the public, I want to make sure that you understand how Tellor Layer works, because it does work a little bit different than how Tellor currently works. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint and we'll get started with that. All right. So in order for us to be able to bridge our data efficiently to other chains, we actually have to cap the amount of validators or people that sign off on the state on the chain when it is bridged over. And right now we have capped the validator set to 100 validators, the top 100 validators. And what that means is that it makes it more efficient, but for you to become a reporter, you're going to have to stake your tokens and then delegate to one of those top 100 validators. And what that means is that your tokens are bonded, and then your tokens can now be used to select a reporter. And it's in essence dual delegation, but when you delegate to the validator, we're just calling it delegation. And when you delegate to the reporter, we are calling it selecting a reporter. And that's just to differentiate in which state your tokens are. We don't have a cap on the number of reporters, so we wanted that to be specifically that way because we want to make sure that we have the maximum amount of reporters possible to be able to support any type of data or queries that the public may want or need. So that there is no cap on that. There is a cap on the validators because, like I said, this is how we transfer or we bridge data to other chains, and the size of this packet of data, basically of these signatures, has a direct effect on how we can communicate to other chains. Your tokens, they can be in basically 3 different states when you become a validator or a reporter. First, they become staked, just take them. Then if they are part or delegated to one of the validators that are part of those top 100 validators, they are considered bonded. And if they are bonded, that is what's going to allow you to get time-based rewards. And the split currently, the way that we have it, is going to be 25 of the time-based rewards are going to go to the validators, and 75% of the time-based rewards are going to go to the reporters. There's going to be more reporters. There's also more risk. There's more rewards going to the reporters. If for some reason your validator that you delegated or the validator that you're running falls off of those top 100, then your tokens are considered unbonded. They're still staked, but they're unbonded. And because they're unbonded, you're not going to be able to earn any validator rewards or reporter rewards. So you have to be mindful of that. And that's something that you have to monitor. So if that happens, then you can redelegate those tokens to another validator that is part of that top 100 set, so that you're able to claim time-based rewards. For the reporter set, the time-based rewards are split or are only provided for data that is part of the cycle list. The cycle list is basically going to be a predetermined enshrined data points, or in this case, it's going to be a lot of pricing information, but it could be just like the top 10 queries. And this can be changed by governance, but it's basically a list of queries that are well supported, and they're well supported, and then they're used. And the time-based rewards are there to essentially subsidize the cost for it, but also to keep the chain alive. So if there is no tip, there's always going to be a time-based reward available for something on that for the next cycle item in the cycle list. anything that is reported for the cyclist will be able to claim time-based rewards, as well as bridge deposit events information. Even though the bridge deposit events information are not going to be part of the cycle list, you can claim time-based rewards for those. And the reason they're not part of the cycle list is because there may not be any deposits every block. So they cannot be part of it. Another way that reporters are going to be able to earn rewards is via tips. Any user can tip a query ID so that people are incentivized to provide that data on chain. From the tips, 2% of those tips are earned, and that's to disincentivize vote farming. And then the rest of the 98%, it's also distributed based on the weight of your reporter or your value of your reporter. And that's basically how reporting works on Tellor Layer now. So if you're going to come and run a validator, you can just be a validator, but obviously the way that we structure this is that so that we incentivize anybody that becomes a validator to hopefully also become a data reporter. And well, you cannot become a data reporter unless you either run a validator or delegate to a validator. With that, we can move over to how our bridge works. Okay, so our bridge it's actually going to run pretty slowly. We prioritize security over speed here. And the way that it works is on Ethereum, you will lock up your TRB. And then once that becomes finalized in the beacon chain, which takes about an hour, then reporters have a window of an hour to report these deposits into Layer. And then after that hour, then you do have to wait 12 hours before you can actually claim your tokens over in Layer. Going on the opposite direction, you basically burn your tokens on Layer, and the validators attest to that transaction, to the state of the chain, and then provide that information back to Ethereum. And then 12 hours later, you can go and claim your tokens. Like I said, we prioritize security over speed here. And this is basically how that works. Currently, we have a faucet that makes it easy for you to just ask us for tokens, and then we'll give you tokens for you to just test the system in general. But we do have a bridge, and we're going to have a front end very soon up and running, so you can also test the whole cycle of it. Now, how do disputes work? So basically, disputes work a little bit different than how they work now, because they're not associated with a specific value, but rather you would dispute a validator or a reporter based on whether on the type of infraction. And so for the type of infractions that we have here are like warnings, minor infraction, and major infraction. To give somebody a warning, it takes 1% of it cost. The fee is actually 5%, but for you to actually initiate that warning, you have to put in 1% in escrow to initiate that dispute. And if you don't have enough to cover that 1%, then you have up until 24 hours for other people to join you in the warning or the minor infraction to get to the 1%. If it's a minor infraction, then if you don't have enough to have the full 5% of the stake of that validator, then you have also 24 hours for other people to pitch in. And then once the amount is reached, then they go to jail. For major infractions, it takes basically you're disputing the validator at or the reporter at the full amount that they have staked. And then obviously you'll get your tokens back if you are successful, minus a 5% dispute fee, just so that people don't just spam the network with disputes. So that's a little bit different how it works, but in essence, in the way that people can be punished for providing bad data is very similar. If somebody is disputed, people can provide evidence, and their evidence and some of like maybe the reports that they submitted as evidence, so that people don't use that data. So that's disputes. And for the validator set, it's the same thing. We have warnings, minor infractions, and major infractions. Once there is a dispute that it's open either on the reporter side or the validator side, the tokens are actually removed from the bonded token total immediately from both, just so that their weight is diminished on how they contribute to creating the final official value. And maybe I should explain a little bit more on that. So the way that values reach consensus is basically there's a commit phase where you say, yes, I'm going to provide the data for these for these, for ETH USD, but you don't reveal the actual value. And then you have a reveal window where you reveal it. Currently, the way that we have it, you get to determine whether or not you want to do a commit reveal scheme, or if you just want to reveal as soon as you submit the data. And that's because basically, if you begin to suspect that somebody is mirroring your data, and we take this very seriously because we want people to go and get the data and do the calculations off chain before they throw them on chain. And that's what makes collecting the information robust. You don't want people to just copy the first submission of the data and mirror it, because then they're not doing their due diligence. And then if that person provides bad data, then everybody else is providing bad data. But also, if you suspect that people are mirroring you, remember, anytime that anybody provides data for a specific query ID, you have to share your rewards with everybody that provided information for that. So if you suspect that people are doing that, then it's expected that the reporters will stop revealing on the commit phase and wait until the reveal phase to provide the data, so that people don't just copy them. Let's see, what else have I not covered? Yes, the way that you stake on chain, so the validator set helps us communicate with other chains, right? And so other chains are going to have a valid set of validators that can provide information from Tellor Layer. The way that, and then what we're going to do is basically every time people come in and leave or whatever, but once there's a 5% change in the validator set in terms of how many tokens are staked, then that is the point where we're actually going to trigger an update to the validator set and report it to the other chains, or to the other chains, so that they're aware that the validator set changed. So what that means for you is that if you are coming and you want to become part of those top 100 validators, you can't just come in and stake or bridge over 60% of what's being staked, or try and take over the validator set. So every 12 hours, the validator set is allowed to change up to 5%. And so what that means for the team is, if there was an attack where somebody's trying to take over the chain by taking over the 30 or 60% of the validator power, the team has some time to react and do something about it. So that's the idea behind that. It is a little time consuming and constraining, and we understand that, but for security reasons, that makes sense. It just makes it a little bit harder for somebody to try and take over the chain, because then we can actually see when something is growing 5% every 12 hours. And with that, for disputes, Tellor Layer works very similar to to how disputes work in current Tellor, in that the voting power is also distributed equally among the 4 groups: reporters, users, holders, and the team. And in this case, we did consider, okay, should the validators be able to vote with the tokens, or should the reporters be able to vote with the tokens? And what we ended up landing with was that validators are basically in charge of coming to consensus on the state of the chain, and reporters are in charge of coming to consensus on data. And that we've decided that those duties are separate, and voting and initiating disputes, it's more of a reporter duty than a validator. So the validators did not get any voting power, and neither did the relayers. So this is very similar to how it works currently. And the only thing that it's a little bit different with the reporters, every reporter can have up to 100 selectors. So 100 people can select them to be the reporter, or 100 different addresses. And if the reporter votes, then for or against the dispute, the entire weight of what has been delegated or delegated for the reporter goes to however the reporter votes. However, in the case that the reporter votes and then somebody that had delegated to them votes, it splits the vote. So it'll take the weight of that selector and remove it from the reporter weight before everything is tallied. So as a selector, you get to keep your voting power, but if you don't vote, then you're basically just trusting the reporter to vote in the direction that you are gonna vote. I think, yes, so one of the reasons we have taken a little bit longer to allow the public to join us in this testing journey or testing phase is that we were doing a couple of tests on optimizing on storage, because, well, running a node in a validator can take a lot of storage. And as we did our internal testing, we managed to cut down a little bit on the storage. We're currently running our nodes on 250 gigabyte drives, and we cut our logs to be able to cut that storage a little bit more for you guys and cut those requirements so that you guys can come to Tellor and become a validator and a node and a reporter much easier. We also cut the history of the chain that we keep, and we have a couple different nodes running. Like we have an archive or two that go back to Genesis. We have some that are more the Genesis, and they have state sync, so you guys can sync up to a later period of time or a later snapshot, and in much faster time than waiting for hours to sync to Genesis. So that should make it very easy for you guys. Also, the size limitation, or the size currently, I think 250 is going to work for our purposes. We have implemented a few different pruning. There's one where I think we're pruning everything. There's one where we're pruning at 21 days. And we're just sort of playing with that to make it more efficient for you guys. One thing that is a little bit new for the Cosmos SDK is vote extensions. And the way that we're using the vote extensions is basically to attest to finalize the data reported and attest to it, and then that data package is what's actually bridged over. There are some limitations to the vote extensions, so and it is directly affected by the amount of validators and data that we push through. So right now we're also still testing a little bit on the final parameters for that, but as for you guys, I think you guys don't have to worry about this. Just bear with us. We will be stress testing the chain, so we will be trying to basically reach the limit of those vote extensions, and also reach those limits for bridging data over to Ethereum. We're using Ethereum as our benchmark block size to be able to transfer this type, to be able to bridge information to other chains. So we're going to be stress testing that. We are also going to be just in general testing our own processes to keep the chain running 24/7 and maintaining it and doing updates and proposals. So bear with us. There will be times where we will purposefully bring down the chain and test some of our processes to bring it back up and make sure that everything runs as smoothly as we think it should. But obviously, we would love for you guys to join us in this testing phase and give us your feedback. Let us know, what kind of things you like, what kind of things we can improve upon, and work with us. I mean, we're always happy to hear your feedback. Also, I just want to be very clear, there will be no airdrops. Our token has been live for many years now. We are not deploying another token, and we cannot change our time-based rewards or inflationary rewards. We cannot change that. So basically the way that it's going to work for the real Tellor Layer for mainnet is what is currently being minted on Ethereum is going to go straight to the bridge contract, and that bridge contract basically is going to drive the minting on Tellor Layer. With that, thank you so much for everybody that's part of the community, and if that have been a reporter for a very long time, and those of you that want to become part of the community and become a data reporter, this is a great time to learn the process and to get familiar with how everything works, so that you can actually become part of our community and of our network. And also, we publish all of our ADRs, or architectural decision records, on GitHub, with a lot more information on how we went about doing, or some of these decisions. So feel free to go through those. If you have any questions, or you think that we could do better at clarifying or providing this information, by all means, give us that feedback as well. We also have a white paper that we just call it Tellor Layer Tech, and it's also on our GitHub. It goes into pretty much everything that I went through today. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions or think that it could be better explained, or any feedback for us, we're happy to hear about it. And we're just super excited to have you join us in this phase of Tellor Layer. And I'm looking forward to seeing who joins. Thank you.